Welcome to the McCombs Wellness Collective podcast, where we aim to improve overall health and wellness of the UT McCombs MBA community through promoting healthy habits and sharing personal wellness stories. Many stressors can emerge during an MBA, and we hope that this podcast will help you prioritize your health during your time at McCombs and onward through the rest of your life.
Welcome to the Wellness Podcast. Today we have Madison Regan, a first year here at McCombs. Really excited to have you on the podcast episode this week. So what we normally start out is just we like to get to know you and hear where you're from and how you came to McCombs.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. Went to Memorial High School. Ventured kind of over to Austin with my family a lot, like throughout when I was young. And so always, was a Texas girl, knew about UT. My parents both went to A&M, but didn't grow up like super strict Aggies. So, grew up coming to Austin, and kind of my journey to McCombs started in undergrad. I went to UT undergrad. I studied communication, however, and then minored in business administration in McCombs. And from there, I went into corporate finance. I was at Dell for about 2.5 years in their finance development program. And then at AMD most recently for about 2.5 years, and was kind of just unhappy in my job. I really wanted to do something more, and especially with the job market right now, or at least like a year ago, it wasn't great. So I was looking for new jobs, and I was like, well, what about going back and studying? What about going back to McCombs in my alma mater and learning more? And I just never really thought of myself as someone who would go back to school. I thought I was done, with 4 years in undergrad. So kind of decided like a month before, like 2 months before applications were due, that I wanted to come back and really pursue this. So really just hit the ground running in about like November timeframe and submitted my application in January. And I think just striving for more and wanting to really expand my knowledge and my boundaries is kind of what brought me to McCombs.
Yeah, wow, that's a really cool journey. I was just peeking on your LinkedIn. It looks like you're wanting to get into the wealth management side of things. Is that something you're still considering, or is that something that's kind of developed as you've been here? Yeah,
I think so. Definitely something I'm still considering, more so doing like the investment management side of it, or trying to learn more about that. I really just I was in corporate finance before, for the tech industry, so I wanted to continue on like the finance route, but like work more in like financial services and be able to work with people and help them achieve their goals. So I feel like that's kind of where the wealth management, like investment, came from. My dad also has that background, so kind of just grew up learning about that. Never thought of myself as someone who would do that, like, didn't feel smart enough or like know about like really any of that. So I think throughout my journey at McCombs, I've really understood my worth and like what I can learn and like what I can do, and that I can set my mind to kind of anything. Sorry, I'm like rambling, but
No.
Anyways, yes. So this summer I'll be working at a family office, and so going to be learning more about the private investment side of things. So should be interesting.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like I know, speaking from my own experience, it's you come here sometimes with a perhaps a North Star of where you want to be, but throughout the process of the fall and the months that ensue, things can change, and you can start to figure out things you do want to do and things you don't want to do. And it's definitely a process to that. What for you, how, obviously we're here on the wellness podcast. For you, simple question is like, when you think of wellness, what comes to mind for you?
I think what initially comes to mind is mental wellness as well as physical wellness, and like kind of how those play into each other. Because, you can be a person like working out 7 days a week, but that doesn't mean you're mentally well, if that makes sense. But I think my idea is about wellness is really just focusing on what makes you feel good. But also, sorry, I'm trying to come up with an answer. I think it's all really about balance, you know? And I don't, sorry, this isn't a good answer.
No.
I'm trying
There's
to
no
think.
right answer
I
here.
know.
Don't worry.
I just feel like the words aren't coming to me.
No, you're good.
But I think as important as it is to be physically well and well balanced, it's really important to be mentally well balanced as well. So I think putting in time to do things that make you feel good and make you happy and feel good about yourself is like a super important aspect of wellness, other than just like the physical, like working out and being healthy and all that everyone tells you to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think I've spoken on the podcast before. Like, I go to therapy every week. It's something that's super important to me.
That's awesome.
It's something that, to your point, just as much as I may work out, as much as I try to do, it's so important to be taking care of your mind, especially in this environment in which there's, even now, for example, I don't have an internship. I'm still trying to figure that out. I know that a lot of other people are in the same boat. And, you know, in the fall, the core classes in the fall aren't easy. There's a lot of things that you have to go through. You're meeting a lot of different people. And
trying to figure out what you want to do with your life.
Exactly.
All that, yeah.
Yeah, so it is trying to find that balance and that mental side of things. It sounds like you've put a lot of like thought into like the mental health side of things. Was there a situation for you that like, you know, you had that like green light? You're like, man, mental health super important to me. Like, how did you kind of come to that?
Yeah, I think my journey started, you know, when I was a sophomore in college here at UT. I was just really struggling with my anxiety, like going to class and being around people. I just couldn't seem to like not be anxious, and being anxious made me feel shitty, and then I would like cry. Like I didn't know how to process it, or like I felt like I was going crazy, like what is happening. So I was about 19, 20 at the time, coming out of freshman year. Freshman year is kind of a crazy time, so really just focusing on that. I started going to a psychiatrist here, got on some medication that actually helped me kind of deal with these emotions, and really had that validation that something actually in my brain chemistry like was not working. Like it wasn't just me being me, like there was something that wasn't clicking. And so I feel through that, the medication as well as through therapy, it's really helped me like understand like who I am and like how I can focus on my mental well-being. My physical well-being, in terms of like working out and everything, has definitely taken a little bit of a backseat with school and everything. But I think that's kind of how my mental wellness journey, and it's still evolving, every day. But I think there's a lot of resources out there and a lot of people feeling similar ways to just knowing that you're not alone and you're not crazy was really helpful for me, I think. Yeah.
No, thanks so much for sharing. I think that's I think part of the reason that Mike and I wanted to have this podcast is to kind of provide a voice to the many people in our class that, might not be comfortable talking about that. So it takes a lot of courage to bring that up, and we really appreciate that. And I think that's something that 2 years ago, if I was talking about my mental health, it was with my closest friends, and it wouldn't have been in a public setting. But it is something that I think it's important, like having people like you speak about it, and kind of take off that stigma, because it's such a common thing that we're all going through.
I think sorry.
No,
to
go ahead.
interrupt. Yeah, I think, throughout this journey, the ability of ourselves to open up to our friends or like to kind of anyone about like the struggles that we've been through, like really, I don't know, it helps you kind of continue evolving on your journey because, my anxiety stemmed a lot from like intrusive thoughts, and I would keep trying to tell my mind and my body, be like, stop, like, don't think about those things, or like, don't worry about that, etc. And through therapy, I realized that you have to embrace those things. Like, your mind is a crazy place. You're like, okay, I may be thinking about this crazy X, Y, and Z thing, but like, that's totally normal, and that I don't have to assign any value to that thought. Like, just because you're thinking about it doesn't mean anything is real or like has to be that way, if that makes sense. So I think it was more so in the beginning trying to like push it down, and you really have to bring it up and talk to people about that, and just in order to, I feel like, try to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was something that was super interesting through my therapy. It's like, embrace the thoughts. They're yours, but that doesn't mean there's any value to them.
Yeah, 100%. I think I've talked to my therapist about similar things, and I think it is really tough when those thoughts come in, to not kind of go down in that kind of hole of letting them kind of take you on a completely different universe.
Like, you're going to take them on a ride, you know?
Exactly. One of the things that I used to talk to my team, it was like, what I used to always say is be present, come back to the here and now, which isn't easy, especially, again, coming back to the setting of McCombs, in which we are here in many ways. You're coming here to get to the next level in your career. But at the end of the day, you're here to get a job, really, right? And it's hard to sit in your classroom. You're like, all right, okay. Especially in the fall, you're like, all right. When you're trying to figure out what you want to do, you have the consulting track that starts super early on, the investment banking track that starts really, really early on. And it gets super overwhelming, and you're like, all right, what about if I don't have an internship now? And I'm sure the same thing is happening for the second years with full-time gigs of where am I going to be? So it's like definitely
seemingly everyone else has it together but you, but
yeah,
it's
exactly.
really not that way.
When you kind of came here, you're coming back to your alma mater, did you feel like you had, like, obviously you just talked about the situation back when you were a freshman, and kind of that was the time in which you kind of put mental health as a priority. What was it like coming back here, like, years later, and kind of having work underneath you and kind of done a lot of self-work? What was it like coming back here? Did you have like like another level of confidence that's like, hey, this is the new Madison that I'm bringing to the table, that you're excited to share with people? How was that?
Yeah, I think definitely not at first. Change is hard. Change is hard for everyone.
Yeah.
And it was especially hard for me in the first month, kind of not knowing where I was going, not having a job, not seeing what I brought to the table. And it was hard. I went back to my sophomore year, time where I was having trouble going to class and keeping myself together without crying. That's just what I tend to do when I get stressed and don't know what's going on, is I just start crying. So it was literally in finance or econ, I was like, oh, I don't understand. So it was funny, but I feel like after the first couple months, everything didn't die down, but,
Right.
You got a little bit more used to it. You realize you're going to get through your classes. You're going to do everything that you need to do. I think this semester has been very liberating, just being able to meet more people, talk with more people, and do more fun social activities, and really just kind of trying to push myself and get myself out there more, because coming from Austin and having lived in Austin the past 10 years, I do have a network here, but I did want to continue expanding that, and I don't feel like I did that my kind of the first semester, because I was just so wrapped up in everything. So I think this semester has been really fun, kind of seeing or making myself branch out and really enjoying the relationships that I've been manifesting kind of through that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And kind of along those lines now, kind of having the perspective that you do now here, and I can't believe to say it, with a month to go
Oh my
of our
gosh.
first year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If you were to look back and say, hey, I think if I were to start the fall again, this is something that I might pay attention more to, or even if someone listens to this and is a prospective student,
Mm-hmm.
what's some advice that you could give them? It's hey, don't worry about this side of things, or put more emphasis here. Is there anything now that you have that perspective?
Yeah, I think, as much as academics are important, a lot of the benefit that comes from this program is the relationships that you make. And so I feel like I would tell them to have a little bit more fun first semester. I'm sure a lot of people did, but I'm just that type of person that I won't go out and do a bunch of fun stuff if I'm really busy and stressed with school. So I think just making sure you balance those priorities, because you're not going to fail. Just be a normal, good student, and you'll do well. So I think just not focusing on academics as much as obviously, I don't want to say don't focus on academics, because obviously you want a good GPA, but I think just making sure you balance those things your first semester, and just really realize that you will get there. It's a lot of ambiguity and a lot of uncertainty, but you're going to get there, and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell myself, that, that if I was being a first semester again.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's really a really important message to share. During this time, even now, with the balancing act for you, what's a typical week for you? How are you fitting in the balance? Obviously, you said, you go to therapy, and that's a really important part of your life. For you, are you physically active, and how do you treat that? Do you have certain tendencies with eating to stay having that wellness side of things? Is that a big part of your life as well?
Yes, I feel like I've definitely been a little less healthy from a eating perspective, at least coming back
You
to
and me
school.
both.
Yeah, it's we all just want the simple snacks, and I don't really have time to cook dinner, so it's whatever my husband decides to get or cook. So I haven't had as much vegetables, I would say, in the last 8 months or so. But yes, so I do like to go. I've actually been going for 10 years now. So it's called Pure Pilates Austin, and they have one right in West Campus.
Oh, awesome.
So I'll go there before class or after class. I really like doing that. Trying to take my dogs on more walks for their physical health as well as mine. And just kind of focusing on keeping moving, even though you have so much going on in your schedule. You do have to, it does feel good to find time to do that. And also I've noticed, I do have to make more of an effort to hang out with friends and hang out with my husband and just be present there. So I think it's been interesting and difficult to manage those, but you figure it out and you kind of continue evolving as you go through school and realizing like your different priorities and how you plan your day.
Yeah, totally. What's you mentioned your husband, and there's plenty of people that have significant others here. What's the experience been like having a significant other and going back full time to school when you're older? What's that experience been like? It sounds like it's a balancing act, but it'd be awesome to hear kind of that perspective of having a significant other and how that plays into the experience here at McCombs.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I mean, kind of as I was saying, I feel like you definitely have to prioritize being present and like spending time with your partner, like not talking about school, not, bitching about some group project, anything like that. So, and what was hard for my husband and I first semester was my stress was kind of going into like causing stress in our relationship. So really just kind of finding those stress management like techniques, whether that's like going for a walk, going to Pilates, or just, enjoying a glass of wine with friends. I think it's been important for us to find that time to hang out, if that's just watching a movie or a show at night. I think it's been good for our relationship to be able to like balance these different factors. Like he works from home, he's working at home all day, and then I'll come home from school and I'm like, oh, the dishes aren't clean, but you've been home all day. He's like, well, I'm working. And I was like, okay. So it's kind of been good for us to deal with something different than just the both working at the same time. So, and he's actually applying to the evening program. So fingers crossed we'll be in school at the same time. So it should be interesting to see how we both work with that schedule as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's it's a different, I think it is just from personal experience. It definitely seems like it's just a different journey when you have a significant other. I mean, I have trouble enough finding time for, building up my friends and stuff like that. And then, there is, when you have another person, a significant other involved, it is a complete balancing act.
Right.
I think you can speak to it much better than I can. I think it is, there's, as we call it, the cohort 5. There's a whole nother aspect to the community we have here, and finding ways to help keep them engaged as well. As much as we're students here, they're kind of really part of it as well. So finding ways that we can keep them engaged and feel part of it is really important too. Trying to close things, is there any other things you want to share in terms of wellness and kind of your journey that you find it pretty important to you, or?
I would say probably 2 things. First, quality over quantity. You don't have to spend time doing 20 different things. You can find 5 really good things or really good, activities that you want to focus on. So just not trying to do, don't spread yourself too thin.
Yeah.
Because that's just not good for anyone personally. And I think the second thing, is just try to find that balance where you feel good. And I think, one thing that I've always stuck by, in terms of wellness, it's not, I don't think it's healthy to be all or nothing. I think you need to find a good balance, in terms of fad diets and all that things. It's a lifestyle, so I think that emphasizing that it's not an all or nothing, it's a balance, and it evolves throughout your life, and especially your time at McCombs, it evolves even faster, it feels like. So just trying to find that balance to where you feel good and not trying to do too much with your time to where you feel spread so thin that you can't be present.
Yeah, no, that's a awesome message to end on. But Madison, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for
really
having
appreciate
me.
It's been great getting to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the McCombs Wellness Collective podcast, where we record weekly episodes during the semester to promote healthy habits and learn about personal wellness journeys. Stay well, my friends, and hook 'em horns.